energy to the conversation. Our good friend Kurt Mullet will be with us in the 7 o'clock hour because it's Wednesday, so it's always great to have Kurt with us. He's doing so many great things, guys, and just, we'll talk about that when he's on. So I'm looking forward to having him with us. And then in the 7:30 hour, the president of Public Agenda, Professor Andrew Seligson, who I commonly refer to and affectionately refer to as Doc, will be with us in the 7:30 hour to talk about some changes, some reports, and some things that they put together at Public Agenda, talking about just the generational differences and where we are with that, how that's impacting our public conversation, how that's impacting our voting. He's just one of those smart dudes that has it laid out in that space. So I'm looking forward to talking to him in the 7:30 hour. So like I said, you guys will want to plug in and stay in with us this morning because we got a lot happening, and it's going to be highly informative today. And of course, Kurt and I will be cutting it up, since we always like to have our little bit of fun with each other and fun with you guys in the process. So. And I will put this out there early. If our good friend Pam from the west side of Chicago happens to be listening this early, I don't know exactly what time she plugs in and turns on the show, but if she's listening, give us a holler in the 7 o'clock hour when Kurt's on. He wants to talk to his angry black woman friend. So a little shout out to you early, Pam. If you happen to be on listening this morning, you join us at that point, so that you, me, and Kirk can have a few fun moments. But there you go, guys. Busy morning, lots happening. We know that the Senate did pass the funding bill that would end the shutdown. Congresswoman Kelly and I will probably get into that. And it's a lot happening. Travel woes are worsening. The FAA is tightening their restrictions, and so that's got a lot of people concerned, even given the fact that we are trying to see our way forward when it comes to this shutdown being ended, and what that's going to represent as it relates to budgeting, federal employees being back to work, all those things. And so that's another highlight or headline. And small businesses are having some challenges when it comes to their optimism. It's at a 6-month low right now. So we'll get into that. If we get into that today, we will. If not, we'll definitely talk about that a little bit tomorrow at the beginning of the show. So there you go. But yeah, guys, I think that, you heard me say this earlier in the week, and I think that our best bet right now is to make sure that we are not fighting against each other. Yeah, we've got 8 senators that made a decision, and it's one that a lot of people are not just frustrated with, but they're just doggone PO'd at it. I get that. But at the same time, I also know we've got to make sure that we aren't spending an unnecessary amount of energy going after the wrong people. Okay? We can get after the people that are letting us down, but don't go after don't just broad stroke this. Stop saying things like the Democrats, because that's not correct. It's like saying Congress. No. Or the Supreme Court. No. There are 6 members of the Supreme Court that are harmful to the planet. Not all 9. The Congress right now is run by Republicans. So let's get it right. The Republicans who run Congress is how we should be phrasing things, not Congress. And when we're talking about our own home team, the Democrats, we can't say the Democrats as an entire body, because we all know there are a number of Democrats. So here's my point I want to make. Here's why I want to make the point this way. So when we just broad brush say the Democrats, so then you mean to tell me that would include Jasmine Crockett? When you say you get my point, Henry, as someone says the Democrats, right? So you're going to include Jasmine Crockett in that by default by saying the Democrats. So that's why I say I'm not saying at all we don't go after the people that are not getting it done. We go after, but that's just the point. We go after the ones that are not getting it done, not the entire Democratic Party, because that's not the case. So I'm tired of us wasting time doing that. And that's what I was saying to Joe Walsh yesterday. Listen, some have let us down. We got to get after them. But the ones that are not letting us down, we have to support them, because then, we're just cutting our own legs to take the easy, low-hanging fruit. It's easy to go after the ones that, go after the ones that are causing the problem. The 8 that you're unhappy with in this vote, that's what we spend our time focusing on. But we don't want to spend too much time focusing on them, because we got other fish that we got to fry. We got to make sure we hold the Republicans to account. And I'm going to say that a lot, guys, because that's the truth. We have to hold the Republicans are the ones that caused this problem, got us to where we are. The Republicans voted for the bill, the ugly bill, not Democrats. The Republicans won't step up to Trump and say, look, man, these executive orders, these tariffs, the Republican voters are the ones that won't vote out the people on their side of the aisle that are causing this chaos. So be responsible is what I'm asking with your vitriol and your anger. Focus it where it's supposed to be focused, and that's what I want us to do. And I know some folks are going to get after me about that and say, oh, Chew, and that's fine. I'll handle it. I'll take it. But, yeah, I just got a great text from one of our listeners that says, no more circular firing squad. Absolutely correct. Thank you, 630, for reminding us of that. That's why I appreciate you guys and your contributions, because we run at 60 plus miles an hour on the show, so we always want to make sure that we catch everything, and sometimes we don't. But that's a great way of putting it. No more circular firing squad. The people who are not, even the people that are not acting in the way that we want them to, take them in the back and straighten them out. Right, Henry? No, take them in the back and straighten them out. But be public about the ones on the right who are totally jacking up the situation. That's who we want to be public about. So, and guys, I'm going to talk about this again, because we know we're going to have some issues where some of the folks on our team let us down a little bit. But it's the other folk that are to use a basketball analogy, they're the ones that are committing the personal fouls. And if we're going to play referee, let's go after them who are committing the personal fouls, not our team who's trying to fight back when we get fouled. And that's an analogy that hopefully will resonate. Some people may go, come on, Chew. So here we go. All right, Henry, let's take a tiny break. All right, let's do that so we can keep our oars in the water. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Chew's Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chew. We'll be right back. Hey, progressives, this is Richard Chew, host of Chew's Views here on WCPT AM 820, 6 to 8 a.m. Monday through Friday. We have some real challenges in front of us as a country. Since the beginning of this show, I have always felt compelled to bring you the best that I've got. Now, there's always a why to doing whatever we do. So, as we go forward and face these challenges, know this, you listeners are my why. Because I want to make sure I do everything I can to provide a safe, open, forward-moving space that allows you to call, email, text, or just listen to a guy that wants to help you bring out your own championship qualities to truly make this place better for us all. Lofty goal, idealistic, maybe so. But that's my why, and I look forward to bringing you the best that I've got. This is Richard Chew. Stay tuned.
Nearly 1 in 2 U.S. adults have high blood pressure. That's why it's important to self-monitor your blood pressure in 4 easy-to-remember steps. It starts with a monitor. Be next to talk to your doctor about your blood pressure numbers. Get down with your blood pressure. Self-monitoring is power. Visit managerbp.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Heart Association, and the American Medical Association, in partnership with the Office of Minority Health and Health Resources and Services Administration.
Hi, I'm Marcel Spears. Keeping our global neighborhood safe is a tough job, made easier by America's brave military dogs. These dogs keep our troops safe by sniffing out bombs and IEDs and locating enemy positions. Yet when these canine heroes retire, they're too often left overseas. American Humane works to bring these valiant dogs home and reunites them with their handlers for happy, healthy retirements. To learn how you can help, Visit AmericanHumane.org.
Because facts matter. You are listening to WCPT 820.
Welcome back to Chew's Views with Richard Chew.
Hey, guys, welcome back to the show. Thanks for being with us this morning. And, here we go. As I said at the top of the hour that we were going to have our wonderful Illinois Congresswoman Robin Kelly with us this morning to chat about all that she's got to be dealing with these next few hours. Good morning, Madam Congresswoman. How you doing this morning?
I'm good, rushing to the airport.
I know. I was like, okay, she's probably like having them folk dodge the lights and gotta go.
Oh, yeah. No, sorry about that.
No.
But no, I'm on my way to D.C. As I said, not to vote no. If I could vote hell no, I would do that.
as the youngins say, hell to the no. Is that how it goes? So
Yes.
So
unless something mightily changed, but I doubt it.
So bring us up to speed. Let's just dive deep into the pool and let you go.
Sure.
Do your thing.
Well, the vote came over from the Senate. Nothing about health care. Soon claims he'll have a vote in December, but you can have your vote. But if Speaker Johnson doesn't have his, it doesn't matter. That you had your vote about the ACA extension. So they had rules last night, and some members got there last night, and Leader Jeffries and Whip Clark, they presented to rules, and some of the other members trying to get their amendments included. But from everything I could see and read and hear about, because we keep each other updated, I don't think anything that we tried to do was approved. But the other part of it is there are about 12, if I remember correctly, supposedly moderate Republicans that wanted the extension also. So now we're going to put the pressure on them. You said you wanted it. I think they even signed something. Mm-hmm. So we're going to put that pressure on them because they're all running for office again, too. And as we've talked about before, this affects Democrats, Republicans, Independents. If you don't vote, it's not just one party or another. So we're going to put the pressure on those that said, they thought there should be an extension, those in the House. And, of course, at 4 o'clock Eastern, finally, Adelita Grijalva will be sworn in. So we'll have our 218th signature on the discharge petition about the Epstein files. The other thing it means that the Republicans going forward can only miss 2 votes, can only miss 2 members of their members voting no.
Yeah.
And so
I was going to ask you about
very tight.
I was going to ask you about Ms. Grijalva, and if you felt confident. It's actually in my notes right here. If you feel confident that she's going to get sworn in, and you're saying that by 4 o'clock Eastern time that should happen. It
should happen.
Okay.
Should happen because they're all, that everyone's flying in to make sure also they're there for that and the vote. That's what they say. And I mean, Arizona's going to lose their mind if they don't. There's, 700,000+ people that don't have representation. And she was duly elected, and she needs to be sworn, and she's been waiting. And remember, every time she flies back and forth, she has to pay for it herself because she's not sworn in.
Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah. Thank you for fighting.
Yeah, hotel, all that.
Thank you for fighting for her because we have been here as best we can and trying to speak and amplify that because it's about doing the right thing. And so Mike Johnson, goes around talking about doing the right thing and being a good Christian. And
please.
Well, that's about doing this basic thing. 700,000 folks said this is who we want. And you're not doing the right thing for those people. So I'm fingers crossed that this is going to happen. So, Congresswoman, listen, I know you're on a tight schedule, and we're so grateful that you could hang with us for a little bit this morning. But can you? Monday, I defended all of y'all because I said that's where I stand. You're in a tough spot. Mm-hmm. I've said this for the longest time. You haven't had the numbers, and we got to ride this out and get every win we can get. And by the way, last week, the wins that we had in this, that's phenomenal. So what I was trying to say is Monday is that we have momentum. We didn't lose momentum because 8 senators decided to vote the way that they did. We didn't lose our momentum. It may have been, we hit a speed bump, but we didn't lose our momentum. Mm-hmm. So help as best you can. I mean, if you can tell us what happened, I know that I don't want to have you have to tell school secrets, but help the audience understand, because there's people all over the country that they're using two words that I don't like to use, and that is Democrats folded and they caved. And I don't feel that way, but I don't know what happened. And I said what I wish had happened is that the senators and Leader Schumer had made it public in advance, so that it wouldn't have seeped out. That if I were the minority leader, I would say, listen, we know we got to do this. This stinks, but we need to let America know why we're doing it, and that this is the Republicans' fault. It's at their lap, not ours. So, okay, I'll shut up. Help us with this a little bit.
Right. Well, first of all, when people say Democrats caved, especially if you're a House member, we feel like we all voted no.
Right.
So, we didn't cave, not to separate, and there's, the majority of the Democratic senators and Rand Paul voted, with us also. I haven't spoken to any of them personally. I did ask my senator where was he, but before he could answer me, he had already voted, with them. It's disappointing. I'm not going to lie about that at all, that it went, that way. But I don't know if some of them were getting phone calls from constituents in their states, and they just felt, the extra pressure. I can't really explain. I mean, there are some people like the American Federation of Government Employees, 820,000. They're happy that, and a lot of them are Democrats, that that this was done. I'm sure many air traffic controllers, TSA. I'm in the car with one of my staff that is still staffing me, but he hasn't been paid. But my staff understands, and it's hard because some people wanted us to, end it, and then many people didn't want us, to end it. And I can't speak for those senators, but we are still fighting. Like I said, we're only 2 votes. They only could lose 2 votes. And Massey has been with us. Taylor Greene, has been with us, and there may be others. So the fight is not over. The fight is not over. We're disappointed, and some people are even more, than that. That's what happened. But also we cannot forget what we were able to accomplish. Not only, I know everybody talks about New York, New Jersey, and Virginia, but Mississippi, Georgia, Pennsylvania,
Prop 50 in California. That went to the voters. 50, that wasn't legislated by the governor. Right. It went to the voters. So
exactly. So people need to don't give up. And I'm so proud of our voters that they realize, all the work we've been doing, all the town hall meetings, all the showing up, all of the direct-to-cameras, influencers, everybody we've been trying to speak with. The word, has gotten out, apparently, and people see, what's at stake. $40 billion to bail out Argentina, but not caring about our health care, tearing up the People's House, and the tariffs. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And, people really woke up.
I've been saying this, and with, criticism from folks that listen to and follow the show and all, that we can't keep up as progressive liberal Democrats this circular firing squad. That every time when we have a disagreement about something, we have to make ourselves look at the bigger picture and look at the wins that we do get, and keep because we have to keep putting this back in the laps of the Republicans. The Republicans got us here. Why are they not stepping up and calling out Trump for the $40 billion? So this is where I know that the strategy is to divide and conquer, which we can't let happen.
Exactly. And you sound just like Lita Jeffries.
Thank you for saying that, but it's because I respect what you're doing. I know how hard as hell it is. But at the same time, we're
disappointed too. We don't like, what happened, but we also have not given up. We're, definitely fighting the good fight, doing everything we can, anything we can. We are trying, and working hard at it. And there's some Republicans that agree with us, so we'll see, where it goes. Now, of course, which is kind of crazy too, but many of this will end January 30th. So we'll be back at this again, but yeah, we're still fighting for people's health care, definitely. And also people have to remember that whatever some of the implementation, like the big ugly bill, is not until after November 2026. People have to remember that they're trying to con people, past the midterm. So people have to remember that too.
So one of the things I wanted to ask you with regard to the next, I guess, is part of this conversation. How much impact do you think that the holiday season had or has had on how the negotiations took place on the Senate side, given all that's going on these next 40 days? I know we spent 40 days without a government operating or open, but the next 40 days are the strongest part of our holiday season. And so how do you think, if it did, it had impact on the decisions that were made?
It could have, but during the holiday season and now, because of what was happening, even before, America stepped up. Mm-hmm. I mean, the food pantries, the religious institutions, organizations. I was a part of showing up and at churches and different places. So many people stepped up as far as food. Not saying that covered everybody, that was hungry. We have too many people to go to sleep hungry before the shutdown, But and during the holidays, people really, really step up. So that might have been in the back of their minds. I know a comment from my senator was, he understood the shutdown, but didn't want to see people continue, not to be able to eat, and those kind of things. Of course, some states stepped up despite Trump and sent out, the full SNAP benefits. But, of course, he said those states would get in trouble. Illinois sent out a very partial, it sounds like from what I'm hearing, SNAP benefits. So, that might have entered people's mind. But I think just the idea of people not getting their benefits, people, when you call the different agencies and all of that, I'm sure that plays on their mind too. But I still, if I was in the Senate, would have voted no.
Okay. Well, that's why we wanted to have you on this morning. I was like, if we can get Congresswoman Kelly to chat with us, it would be great to kind of help with some clarification as to what you see from inside of the cauldron, as we say it here. Congresswoman Kelly, it's always a pleasure and a joy to have you on.
Well, thank you.
And I wanted to get your thoughts. I knew you're heading back to Washington to take care of business, so travel safely. Thanks for being.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. We'll talk with you soon. Travel safely and keep us posted. Okay.
All right. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, Henry, let's take a quick break. 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago and WAR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Check up on health with Chris Whitting.
Planning for healthcare costs as we age is daunting. Gal Wettstein is a senior research economist at Boston College.
For a 65-year-old today, over 80% will need some amount of long-term care. Now, a lot of that is going to be things like cooking, managing your budget, shopping, things like that. But then almost 1 in 5 will need what we call high-intensity care, which is assistance with at least 2 of the list of activities of daily living, which is walking, getting out of bed, using the bathroom, showering, getting dressed, things like that. Basic activities. So more than 2 of those, and we'll need that help for more than 3 years.
Professor Wettstein points out that the average cost of long-term care is substantial, with a semi-private nursing home room costing about $100,000 per year. With Checkup on Health, I'm Chris Whitting.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Skies will become mostly sunny here for today with a high in the low 50s. West winds at 10 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 30. Then for tonight, partly cloudy with a low near 34. By Thursday, sunshine high around 53 degrees. And Friday, plenty of blue skies and sun, a high around 60. Saturday, partial sunshine develops high around 68 degrees. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 39.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Hey guys, welcome back. It's great to have Congresswoman Robin Kelly with us when she can hang out for a minute, and it was good to get her a little bit of clarification and you know what's inside the tent knowledge. She couldn't go too deep on certain things, but she's fighting. And she said, if I had been in the Senate and voting, I would have voted no. So that should tell you a lot. But she also understands that we can't be pulled apart and divided in the circular firing squad. So, you know, that's one of the things that makes it tough. We don't know all the details, and that's why I've been saying it would have been nice. If there's one thing I could have advised Senator Schumer on, or Minority Leader Schumer on, is should have gotten this in, you know, here's why we're doing it, y'all. We're in a tough spot. Republicans got us here, Henry. We didn't create this monster. They did. And our best way to try to fix it is to do this. I wish he had thought, his people had said, you know what, we're going to catch some hell for this. We need to go public, and the 8 that are going to vote, we need to, you know, in front of the cameras collectively. And that to me was probably as big of the mistake, if you will, as anything. But that being said, this is still in the lap of the Republicans. There's no question about it. Just like every other doggone thing we're trying to get done, from you know, SNAP to ICE to all these things. And one of them that's near and dear to so many of us is gun violence and navigating through the problems that the Republican Party keeps standing in the way of. Ultimately, I mean, there's a handful of Democrats every now and again that might respond incorrectly on this conversation around gun violence, but time and time again, it keeps coming back to Republicans and their marriage with the NRA that creates the problem. But we've got an executive director that is a fighter in this space and makes it clear that she's not going to just take this lying down. This has been with us before. And that's Executive Director of One Aim, Illinois, Yolanda Androzo. Good morning, Yolanda, and welcome to Choose Views on WCPT here in Chicago.
Good morning, Richard. Thank you so much for having me. You're having a wonderful show so far.
Man, Congresswoman Kelly, she's fire. She is fire. Yes. Just like you are. You know, hey, listen, you don't play around either, and I'm so proud of what you've been doing. It's good to have you back on the show. And you've got a great event coming up that we'll talk about, as well as some of the things that are going on in this bigger conversation around gun violence and the prevention. Remind everybody real quickly, Yolanda, of you and the organization, and then we'll get in talking about the upcoming fundraiser.
Yes. Well, One Aim Illinois, we are a Black-led nonprofit leading the state's largest grassroots gun violence prevention coalition with over 280 members, and we're continuing to grow. We educate, advocate, organize, and uplift survivor voices to protect Illinois children and families from gun violence. So we work with survivors, those directly impacted by gun violence, within our Survivors Council, and we center survivors at the heart of our work because they have been impacted, and their perspectives about the solutions, we need to listen. We need to listen to them. So we provide a safe space for survivors to come together to advocate for change.
So, you know, I was talking with Justin J. Pearson, who is a Tennessee assemblyman. And, you know, this is one of the reasons that I thought it was just great timing that we have you on. If you remember, back in 2023, he, along with Representative Jones and Johnson, I should say, down in Tennessee, were all but kicked out of the chamber because they were there to stand up and have their voices be heard as elected officials after the largest mass shooting that had ever taken place in the state of Tennessee. And you may recall they got essentially, kicked out And he spoke about this from the perspective of someone that was representative of the children there in Tennessee. But he also said something to go back to what you just said about the victims. He said, we got to listen to young folks. We got to listen to everybody that's a part of that we need to be part of the change that we're trying to make. And so tell us a little bit more about what you've learned about the importance of listening to the survivors, the victims and the survivors of gun violence.
What survivors tell me, well, there's so much, but what I've learned is that they aren't listened to. They aren't at the table when policies, often aren't at the table when policies are being crafted. And so that's why we center them at the heart of our work. They're also told things like, can you just get over it? You know, you lost your loved one years ago. Why don't you just stop? And they won't stop. They won't stop because for many of them, advocating for change is all that they can do to ensure that, you know, the death of their loved one was not in vain. And many of the survivors, they haven't had justice. You know, their cases haven't been solved. They haven't heard from their detectives, you know, and so it's ongoing trauma. And so listening to them about the solutions is really important. One of the policies we're working on to try to pass, it didn't pass last session, is the Homicide Victims Families Rights Act. And that came out of working with survivors, you know, who said, listen, you know, we need more support from communities and law enforcement. We need our cases solved because when cases aren't solved, those homicides just go on for years and years. Not only does that lead to more trauma, but also if nobody is held accountable, you know, will the violence continue? You know, so that's why this policy would ensure that after 3 years, if that case has not been solved, you would petition law enforcement, and they would take a look at your case, and if accepted, then a new detective would be placed on your case. And a liaison, a family liaison, who was also a law enforcement officer trained in trauma-informed care, would be that family's main point of contact. And so it puts more life, that new eyes back on the case, and shines a light on that victim, right? Because survivors told me that they are often treated as though they, you know, are, you know, they're the perpetrator. You know, sometimes they say automatically it's assumed that, oh, hey, this death was gang related, you know, and they're not treated with respect. And so many cases, especially in Black and brown communities, go unsolved. And so, and what's really nice is that, you know, there has been some movement with this policy, meetings with law enforcement and survivors together, which is amazing, and advocates to try to get this policy off of the ground. So, so that's the main thing I've learned from working with them. And of course, they're resilient. They're absolutely relentless in fighting for change. And I think that's something that everyone can relate to who's faced a traumatic event or who's come up against a roadblock and somebody says, no, you individually can't do this, or collectively as a human race, you can't move beyond this roadblock. The survivors, because they don't have a choice. They don't have a choice but to continue to fight. This is what they tell me, you know. Like, they'll say, I joined this club after the death of my loved one, after my child was taken from me. I didn't want to be a part of this club. I didn't sign up for this club, but nevertheless, I became a part of this club of survivors, and now I am called to advocate for change. And they've taught me that through that resistance, that resilience, and that relentlessness, anything is possible. I think that's their message, that we can't stop, and that gun violence isn't normal, and that we don't have to live this way, and things shouldn't be this way. Mm-hmm.
That's the part right there. Those last two sentences. This is not normal. It's become unfortunately. It's become normal or become accepted, unfortunately. And it's unfortunate that we haven't had the real guts to say to all parties involved that the Second Amendment is at the tip of the spear of why we continue to have this problem. Let's find an origin point. Where go back. Where did this very probably start, and what's the thing that's now propping that up? And unfortunately, it's the Second Amendment, or how people's perception of the Second Amendment has perpetuated this whole gun environment in the country, not just here in Chicago or in Illinois, but it's a national problem. And so for me, it's nice to hear that the people who have been the victims and are the survivors are the ones that we can learn actually the most, or certainly a lot from in this process. Yolanda, one of the things that I admire about your work is that you're always looking at what I like to refer to as the connective tissue. How does this thing then affect that thing, which would then affect another thing? And so one of the pieces of your not legislation, but one of the pieces of your leadership is about how important it is that after-school programs are so important in preventing youth violence. Let's talk about that, and then we'll shift and talk a little bit about the upcoming event.
Sure. Well, I know growing up in Chicago Heights that if I had not have had our theater program in high school, I know my life would be very differently, because there were so many elements around me as a child that I could have gotten involved in, or my brothers could have gotten involved in. So quality after-school programming, experiences for young people to discover their gifts, and not just like the arts, but also to grow in academics. And so the cut to after-school programming, youth services for our young people, predominantly in Black and Brown communities, has a direct effect on the choices they make. One of our partners, our coalition members, Kids Off the Block, something that Miss Diane Lattifer shared with me when I went out to talk with their young people about gun violence and why they think it was happening and what they think needed to be done to end it. She shared with me most of the kids she works with, nobody's born wanting to get involved in violence, right? It's a direct response to your experience. So when there is not a quality education, after-school programming, job training, mentorship, when there's not enough food on the table to feed the family, young people, they are human beings. They make choices. And so it's really about, what do we as a community, a government, legislators, what do we want to invest in, right? Do we want to invest in building prisons, or do we want to invest in schools and opportunities for young people to thrive and to grow? And I believe in the survivors that I work with believe that more resources for young people, for after-school programming, resources for community healing is essential. And, of course, CVI, community violence intervention, is essential to preventing gun violence. So I hope that answers your question.
It does, but what it does even more so than that, Yolanda, is it puts it puts attention on an even bigger conversation that is a city, state, federal conversation, and that is, are we going to really protect our children, or are we just going to talk about it and pretend like we really care about our children? And if we really do care about our children, then we're going to put things in place to make sure that no matter what the economic circumstances are of a particular community or a school district, that when children can get to school without drama, they can be in school without drama, they can learn, they can go home, and on their way home from school, however they get there, that they don't have to deal with the drama. Now, the bully in the neighborhood that we all grew up where there was the bully in the neighborhood, boy or girl, that always wanted to start some drama. But fisticuffs is different than guns. and getting knocked upside the head or whatever with a punch from the bully, you can come back from that, but you can't come back from that same thing with a gun. And so we know that if we can create from a federal standpoint, and right now this administration doesn't give a damn about it, the spread that wealth. I mean, we're going to spend $40 billion helping out another country. How about taking a tenth of that and putting it toward helping, communities where after-school programming and such are important. So, yes, you not only answered the question, but you highlighted, the bigger issue around what the upside of that is in terms of after-school programs. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu, and we're talking with Executive Director of One Aim, Illinois, Yolanda Androzo. And it's so great to have you with us. In addition to coming up with all these great programs and being the fighter that you are, you've also got a nice little fundraiser coming up soon. So let's take a couple minutes and talk about the fundraiser itself and why it's important and what some of your goals and objectives are of having it.
Thank you, Richard, for the opportunity to share about One Aim's third annual fundraiser, Voices for Change in the Fight to End Gun Violence. It's more than a fundraiser. This is about uplifting and spotlighting survivor voices. And I'm just so excited that we're going to be honoring Arnie Duncan, Managing Director of Chicago Press, and the Institute for Nonviolence in Chicago. We are also honoring as one of our coalition members. Also, Marsha Lee, a survivor and relentless advocate. She lost her son to gun violence nearly 20 years ago, and over the years, she's worked with our coalition to share her message and her story with thousands of individuals all across the country to inspire them to join this fight for change. And we're also honoring Millie and Raphael Burgos, parents who lost their 18-year-old daughter to gun violence in 2014. So we're bringing people together, and I just want to let people know that this movement happens with them, right? We can't end violence. We can't protect our children without engaging communities. So we invite individuals to come down actually on November 13th at Hubbard Inn, 110 West Hubbard Street, to celebrate with us. And if you can't attend the fundraiser, please donate to the cause. And folks can do that by going to oneaimil.com. That's ONEAIMIL.com. And if you are a survivor of gun violence or know someone who's a survivor and wants to get involved in supporting survivors, join our Survivors Council, you can also go onto our website and just click on Survivors Council, and we will get in contact with you. So, yeah, I mean, I'm very excited about this event because it's really about highlighting the movement and those leaders and survivors who have been involved for years doing the CVI work, that's community violence intervention, as well as sharing their stories and inspiring the public to advocate for change.
Yeah, your organization has really been impactful, and I'm so excited that you're having the fundraiser and glad we could amplify it a little bit here this morning on the show. Now, it's Thursday, November 13th, which is tomorrow, from 6:30 to 9 p.m. Is that correct? And it's at the Hubbard Inn, 110 West Hubbard Street in Chicago. Folks can people still get tickets to attend? Is that how it's working? Walk us through that real quickly.
Sure. Well, we are selling out, so it's going to be hard to get in. So
that's a good thing.
We're just about at capacity, but folks can go onto our website oneaimil.org. That will you are able to donate to the fundraiser. So We need all of the dollars that help fuel the movement. So if you can't get in, please go on and make a donation or just sign up to join the coalition or for our newsletter. And, the next event, you can definitely make it if there's room. Because, hey, as you say, Richard, we are growing. So, yeah.
Do you have anything coming up? I know you had a fundraiser now, but is there anything that you're doing in December that's holiday related? I know that, sometimes when there's been a loss, and we all know this because we've been around long enough to get to the holidays, and can it be, we want it to be an inspiring and uplifting time of year, but for some folks, particularly if they've had loss, it can be one of the most, depressing times of the year, unfortunately. So what, if anything, are you doing that might be around bringing some inspiration for folks during the holidays?
Thank you for pointing that out, Richard. Yes, it is for our survivors, those who don't have their loved ones with them during the holidays. It's a very depressing time. So we are having a Survivors Council event it's actually on November 21st. We're bringing survivors together in a workshop called Plates of Love. So Dr. Sharon Pusey, who is a survivor herself, what she does is she gets the images of survivors and she puts them on plates. So she's an artist, and she decorates them, and we are gifting those to our survivors, because what it represents is like that empty plate at the table, because they have an empty plate and an empty seat. And so this event is going to be a healing event and a gifting event, and they will talk about just, how they're feeling at this time of the year. We're also going to have some soul food, and we're going to listen to some music because, survivors, they also have fun. We also have fun, right? Because you got to be able, to feel that joy in your heart as well as that pain, right?
Yeah.
And so now this event is closed because it's filled up right now. But hey, if we have the need, we can. All you got to do is go onto our website and click Survivors Council or click on our coalition. And as those numbers grow, we can offer another event. So
That's
and
awesome.
then also we're going to be having a painting workshop at Minocqua's the last week of December, and this is going to be another opportunity for survivors to paint out their feelings. And so I think the arts is integral, as well as advocacy workshops and working on crafting policies that shape a safer Illinois. Healing is very, very important to this work.
Yolanda, why don't we make sure that we can have you back on sometime in mid-December, right before that end-of-year gathering. I think it'll be good just to let folks know that it's happening and to talk a little bit about that, and then to talk about how the fundraiser went. Does that sound okay?
That sounds wonderful. Richard. I appreciate that. We'll definitely come back on.
So we'll put that together offline. But for now, Yolanda Androza is executive director of One Aim Illinois, and they're doing the work, y'all, making sure that people are aware of what's happening, providing support and ideas for people to be able to move forward, and making sure, to Yolanda's point earlier, that we're listening to the survivors. So thank you so much for being with us, and thanks for letting us be able to share in your story and the success of what you guys are getting done.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, Richard.
Absolutely. Yolanda, have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, guys, we'll take a little bit of a break, and when we come back, we're going to be chatting with our good friend Kurt Mullet from Hoosier Blue 63. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and 103.5 FM and 1520 AM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
WCPT replay.
We are talking with candidate for Congress, Isaiah Martin.
I think the strongly worded letter era is simply something that needs to end. To be honest with you, it's a very simple conversation. If Republicans are willing to go for the jugular, then we need to go lower. And I think, seriously, if that means gerrymandering out Republicans, then that's fine. I don't really care about the Republicans that have been holding their seats for the last 20 years. I don't care about the seniority that they claim to have racked up. I don't care about the friendships that they claim to have made along the way. I don't care. Donald Trump is coming for America, and he's coming for Democratic seats. And with the same sense of don't care attitude, it's the same kind of don't care attitude that we need to gerrymander out Republicans. And I think that needs to be the message that we have across the country.
Keep listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
This is a WCPT Veteran Minute. In the midst of World War II, a group of Native American soldiers known as the Code Talkers became silent heroes. The U.S. military faced challenge of secure communications on the battlefield, and these men, primarily from the Navajo tribe, were enlisted to develop an unbreakable code. Using their native language, which had no written alphabet, they transmitted vital messages that were indecipherable to enemy forces. The code proved to be an essential asset, particularly in the Pacific Theater, where it helped the Allies win crucial battles. The Code Talkers' courage and ingenuity saved countless lives and turned the tide of the war. Yet, their contributions remained largely unknown until decades later. The legacy of the Code Talkers stands as a testament to the strength, resilience, and invaluable service of Native Americans during one of America's most devastating conflicts. This has been a WCPT Veteran Minute.
Picture this. You're halfway through a DIY car fix, and boom, you're missing a part. But it's okay, because whatever it is, it's on eBay, and it's guaranteed to fit every time. eBay. Things people love.
AP News. I'm Marcela Sanchez. AP correspondent Haya Panjwani reports on the Supreme Court's ruling on SNAP benefits.
The U.S. Supreme Court has extended its order blocking full SNAP payments. The High Court's decision came during signals that the government shutdown could end soon and food aid payments could start back up. The order keeps in place at least for a few more days, a chaotic situation. People who depend on the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, to feed their families in some states have received their full monthly allocations, while others have received nothing. SNAP helps 42 million Americans buy groceries. The order will expire just before midnight on Thursday. Haya Panjwani, Washington.
A federal judge will hear arguments today on whether a spending law passed in July that ended Medicaid reimbursements for Planned Parenthood can remain in effect while legal challenges continue. President Trump's tax and spending cut bill targets organizations that both provide abortions and receive more than $800,000 a year in Medicaid reimbursements. In India, security agencies have detained several suspects in Kashmir as part of the probe into the deadly car explosion in New Delhi.
The blast occurred on Monday near the historic Red Fort Monument in New Delhi, killing 8 people and injuring several others. Authorities have announced that they're investigating it as a possible terrorism, a step that gives investigating authorities broader powers to arrest or detain people if confirmed as a deliberate attack. It will be the deadliest blast in India's capital since 2011. At least 5 people have been detained for questioning in a series of raids overnight in Kashmir's southern Pulwama district. Police officials say Red Fort is a 17th century monument and a place where Indian prime ministers deliver Independence Day speeches on August 15 each year. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
This is AP News. A father and daughter on a hurricane relief mission were the victims in Monday's small plane crash in South Florida.
The Christian missionary group Ignite the Fire has identified their founder, 53-year-old Alexander Worm, and his 22-year-old daughter Serena as the people who died in a small plane crash near Fort Lauderdale on Monday. Their 1976 Beechcraft King Air plane was carrying humanitarian aid bound for hurricane victims in Jamaica when it narrowly missed some homes and crashed into a pond in Coral Springs. Deputy Chief Mike Moser is with the Coral Springs Parkland Fire Department.
We received several 911 calls of a plane that had crashed in the waterway in the lake behind these homes here.
Audio courtesy WSVN. Crisis Response International founder Sean Malone says that Alexander Worm really made a difference in the lives of people on the ground, delivering medical supplies, water filters, and satellite internet equipment to Jamaica for the relief organization. Flight tracking shows the plane made at least 4 other trips to or from Jamaica in the past week. I'm Jennifer King.
And I'm Marcela Sanchez, AP News.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's Progressive Talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Skies will become mostly sunny here for today with a high in the low 50s. West winds at 10 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 30. Then for tonight, partly cloudy with a low near 34. By Thursday, sunshine high around 53 degrees. And Friday, plenty of blue skies and sun, a high around 60. Saturday, partial sunshine develops high around 68 degrees. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 39.
Taxes was feeling unwelcome. Now Taxes is an open door, literally, to new TurboTax stores. Meet our experts in person.
Hi, welcome in.
They're powered by smart tech and ready to do your taxes for you. Get real-time updates while you go about your day. Confident your taxes are done right. Now this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax. TurboTax stores opening soon. Real-time updates only in iOS mobile app.
WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk, where facts matter.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. Today on Live Local and Progressive, Joe Esposito will be talking to Julia Chesky, founder of Decoding Fox News, a crowdfunded media project. Robert Held, Chicago attorney recently detained by ICE but not charged with a crime. Charles Cook, award-winning reality TV and daytime talk TV producer and former broadcast journalist here in Chicago. That's Live Local and Progressive, weekdays 2 to 5 here on WCPT, heartlandsignal.com, and TuneIn. Tonight on Driving It Home, Patti Vasquez will be joined by Nathan Taylor of Election Truth Alliance at 6. At 6, she'll join the Up North podcast with Minocqua Brewing Company and contributors Kirk Bangstad, Ben Cominos, Amy Thomas, and more. This time, their guests are going to be Charlie Sykes, a veteran Wisconsin journalist, author, and political commentator for more than three decades. You guys have seen Charlie Charlie Sykes. Wow, I apologize. Charlie Sykes. Say it 3 times. Ooh, lordy. Chris Armitage, U.S. Air Force veteran, former law enforcement officer, and security analyst. That's Driving It Home weekdays 5 to 7 here on WCPT, AM 820, Heartland Signal, website, TuneIn, YouTube, and Facebook. Tomorrow's show here, Choose Views, Janai Nelson, President and Director Counsel of the NAAC Legal Defense Fund, Kathy Hempstead, Senior Policy Advisor at the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, and Seth David Radwell, author of American Schism, How Two Enlightenments Hold the Secrets to Healing Our Nation. We got a contest going on. Speaking of authors and writers, you guys are all familiar with our good colleague, really true colleague and friend, and road dog John Fugelsang. His new book, Separation of Church and Hate, is a New York Times bestseller. And to celebrate John, is hosting a book tour, pay-per-view comedy special, recorded in D.C. on Saturday, November 15th, which is this coming Saturday. At 8 p.m. Central. Watch John on your computer, tablet, smartphone, or cast your TV. If you go to meethook.live/John F. Again, if you go to meethook, that's MEET hook.live/John F. You can order the pay-per-view book package. Or if you are the second caller, win right now at 773-763-9278. You'll win a stream code to watch the show live and on demand. Again, call 773-763-9278 right now, and the second caller will win that streaming package. Contests running on WCPT 820 are open to listeners 18 or older and residents of the greater Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana area. 1 entry per person, 1 winner per household. Void where prohibited by law. Listeners may only win or qualify to win once every 30 days. Complete rules are available on our website at WCPT.com by clicking the contest tab. So there you go. And then you can also get my podcast, of course, Choose Views, featured interviews, and full episodes are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, iHeart, YouTube, of course, Amazon Music. Search for Choose Views or visit our new podcast page at heartlandsignal.com/podcast. You can get it all there, guys. So make sure you are plugging in to all that we're doing, and we'll make sure to keep you posted on the contest. All right, we're going to bring Kurt on in a moment, but I wanted just to do a couple of quick house cleaning items. If you guys get a chance, make sure to check out Karen Burns' GoFundMe page for the folks in the family out in Broadview. This is a GoFundMe page that she put together, and they're close to their goal. They just need a few added dollars to kind of get them over the edge or to their goal. So if you guys can check that out, it's if you GoFundMe for Christopher, I believe is the correct title. Check that out. Would be very helpful. The other thing I want to do, a little bit of house cleaning on this, is earlier in the show I made a reference that a couple people didn't like the way that I said something, so I'm going to clean it up right now. When I referenced having Pam call us today while Kurt is on, and I said we're going to have some fun in terms of our angry black woman being on. That was not meant to be derogatory in any way whatsoever. And I was reminded that Pam is knowledgeable, confident, and clear, and not an angry black woman. Now, I will tell you that if you have a conversation with some black women, they'll tell you they are angry, and they're knowledgeable, and they are confident, and they're clear-minded. I'm an angry black man. I don't run from that. Why would you not be angry about certain things? But that doesn't change the fact that being knowledgeable, confident, and clear are also part of how we are. So I wanted to make sure I've cleared that up right away, that I don't see Pam as an angry black woman. That's something she gets to self-define. And I have no problem cleaning up on aisle 7 very quickly. And when you guys remind me of that, I get about it. So just wanted to make sure I did that before we went any further. So that being said, it's Wednesday, so let's welcome to the show our good friend Kurt Mullet from Hoosier Blue 63. Good morning, Kurt. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I got to go wring out the mop bucket now that I just cleaned up on aisle 7.
Well, now, wait a minute. Now, if I recall, Pam referred to herself as that because she said, "Where are the angry white men?"
Listen, man.
Listen, I believe
you're right.
I believe that's what. Because that's where I came in. I was like, "Hey, I'm an angry white man." So people lighten up, man. Come on.
Yeah, I get it, and I'm also responsive to when someone says something that didn't quite settle with them the right way. Listen, man. There are those words coming out of my mouth. I apologize and I'm sorry. Are words that I have no problem with when someone doesn't quite, ring true with something. So, that being said, we're all good. Yeah. Everybody knows we're here to move everything forward. And not get caught.
I love you. This angry white dude loves you, man. So,
listen, I love that. I love that you self-proclaimed angry white dude because it does add.
Hell yes.
We need more angry folks in the tent right now. And
yeah, we do.
Man, oh man, listen, you are a Chicago-esque guy. You have said before how much you appreciate our mayor, you appreciate our governor. And I sent you the article about what's happening with the Border Patrol boss and agents could be leaving Chicago this week. And I was I had a brief conversation with a couple of the folks on the mayor's team about this. And I want to get your thoughts on it before I go down the path too far. Basically, guys, ICE, there's a strong move and possibility that ICE could be leaving Chicago this week from some very, very credible reports. So, Kurt, you being a fan of Chicago and not one of Greg Bovino, talk to us about how you saw this and how you see this.
Well, I think it's long overdue. I don't think they ever should have been there. That's the first thing. And the way this guy has acted, I mean, he's just like Stephen Miller with a uniform on. He's got a Napoleon complex about him, and I don't know where they drag these guys out of, man. I mean, they have that go to the depths of the Baptist churches in the South or somewhere. I don't know where they drag these dudes out of, man. But, or these evangelical churches, I should say.
You and I are just throwing everybody under the bus this morning. We're throwing angry black women, angry white dudes, the Southern Baptists. Good Lord, we're getting in some trouble.
I apologize for that. I misspoke, but you know what I mean. I mean, this is long overdue. And my love for Chicago goes way back when I was employed with Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company, and I lived up in Northwest Indiana, and I used to come to Chicago all the time, and being connected to the city in a sports way. I've been a Bears fan and a Bulls fan and a Cubs fan my whole life, and I just love the city. It's one of those places that I've never felt threatened or scared or anything. It's just a beautiful town that has so much to offer, and I admire Brandon Johnson. And I look at those who lead in two different categories. We have politicians and we have representatives. Mayor Johnson is a representative. He's and people can criticize him all they want, okay? He's never going to get away from the label of being a politician, but he's a representative of the people. You can tell his love for Chicago and what he's trying to do.
It's deep,
Is he going to make a mistake now and then? Yeah, it is. He's not perfect. No one is. But the things that he is doing, I support him 100%. And if you give the guy time, he will make a difference in that city. So I think it's long overdue. I'm glad it's happening, and they should be gone today. So
fingers crossed on that. We really, I sent some information to the team of his people that I work with to have him on the show, and they're very. They're anticipating this to be real, and I know the governor is feeling a same amount of good in this space. So, but I like the way you put that. There's some people who are they're all politicians. They're all in the political office, but some are true representatives of the people that elected them and the people that didn't vote for them. And Mayor Johnson is that. Governor Pritzker is that. And so many others folks are that. And our bench, last week, we proved that our bench is strong. Our bench is really, really it's a bench that's not only strong, but it's one that's been listening. I don't know if you heard my interview yesterday with Justin J. Pearson. I know you are now. I know you're digging on some Justin because he's speaking the language that you want to hear. But that's that energy. And yes, he's 30 years old, so we have to give credit to his chronological bona fides. But he's so. I said it this way, Kurt. The dude he's battle tested. Like now, he's ready for U.S. Congress right now. From what I saw yesterday.
Richard, my experience as I've gotten older or grown older, I've become more progressive. And it's a weird thing because you think as you get as you grow older in age that you become,
more enclosed, maybe. I know. I know what you mean. Go ahead.
And I've become more progressive, but the more I'm around the younger generation, these millennials and these Gen Zers, like the 2000s in Tennessee and others, some in my state, I'm just not only inspired by them, but just amazed at their knowledge, their dedication, their vigor, their fight, just everything about them. I support 100%. And people need to, people understand. And I think a lot of the things that are happening with some of the withdrawing ICE and some of these other things. Last Tuesday was a wake-up call to the MAGA world.
Yeah.
It was, you've talked about it enough, and we won't go into detail. We kicked their butts, period. I mean, in a way that I've never seen before. Maybe the only time I've ever witnessed it was the Reagan years, the one,
Yeah.
But I mean, we kicked butt. And I think it sent out a resounding alarm to these people, and I think they're recognizing us. And yes, we've had a setback with what has occurred with these people that have gone against them. And I've listened to the excuses from all of them that have gave their reasons, and okay, they have their reasons. They're entitled to that. The only one that I really laughed at was John Fetterman. I have zero respect for him. So,
my
but the
goodness.
rest of them, okay.
Yeah, I mean, you give him the room. I mean, I was fortunate. We were fortunate to have Congresswoman Kelly on earlier, and what she said, I think, helped to address some of it. And I know we could have talked a lot longer, but she was heading back to D.C. She made it clear. She said, Richard, if I were in the Senate, I would have voted no. I mean, so and that's in opposition to the person's seat that she's running for in terms of Durbin. So, we want that kind of leadership in place, and we want the Justin Pearsons of the world to be part of that as well. And here's the thing.
Absolutely.
Congresswoman Kelly and I are, we're basically the same age, and Justin's 30, but they're speaking the same thing. And so that's why I'm always like, and I know you know this too, it's not the chronological age necessarily. It's the energy and the thought process that they bring to what we need in leadership. One of the other things that I thought was really great that he said, and this is going to stick with me for a while, because I honestly hadn't heard this. So I've got to be the first to say this and be honest in terms of how it impacted me. But to hear him say, as a 30-year-old male, that the thing that he wants to do to get the message across is to let the people who he's trying to lead know that he's listening when he's talking about younger voters. Because I asked him specifically, Assemblyman, how are you going to get younger voters? And actually, I didn't ask the question. Rico asked the question, so I got to be right about that. And he said by letting them know that they're being listened to, and ask them the question, who would you rather lead you? Somebody that to make decisions for you, rather somebody else or yourself. And man, his answer was amazing.
Spot on.
I mean.
Richard, I have a daughter. She's 31 years old. 32, I'm sorry. She turned 32 this summer. And when she was becoming of age, I would talk to her about different things. And one of the things I talked to her about when she started dating was that, let me give you some advice. If you go out on a date with a guy and he doesn't listen to you and he just talks about himself, that will be the last date you have with him, okay? Don't walk away, because those who only are concerned about making sure their opinion is heard are not people that usually you want to be around. It's those who listen to you and understand what you are asking and what you are saying, and are involved in what you are asking and what you are saying, are the ones that you want to be. So there was a lot of things that he said that I absolutely loved, but I've admired the guy for a long time, and he's somebody that I have, I follow on social platforms and what have you. So that's what we need, and that's what is happening in our country right now. Regardless of what took place, okay, Monday night, Sunday night, Monday night, and we're still learning some of the deals, the shadiness that has happened behind. Evidently, there's been a deal made about trying to put a national ban on abortion.
Yeah.
And there's some kind of money deal that's been made, and I'm still trying to dig into it. But let me tell you, the only thing it did was, okay, and I know this is a line, is that I don't want to include everyone in the Democratic Party when we say Democratic Party, but one thing people need to understand, when progressive Democrats or Democratic Socialists talk about the Democratic Party, they don't include Bernie Sanders and AOC in their thought. Even though that's what they are saying, they don't trust me. If you ask somebody if Bernie Sanders, that's a progressive Democrat or a Democratic Socialist, Bernie's not a Democrat. He's but anyway, I understand where, that comes from, and we have to be careful with the words that we choose. So
yeah, and that's why I said earlier.
It lit a fire. It's lit in the fire. The fire has grown. It's intensified since this has occurred, because they realize now more than ever, not that we needed to know, but now more than ever, it's important that we move forward and we make sure we make change in this country. And that's what, that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
Just searching of ways. That's what I've always been trying to do, is just find ways to where I can lend my opinions and my voice. So, and you've given me a great opportunity at doing that, and I will forever be grateful for that. So,
well, my pleasure, my man.
We continue on.
Yeah, so. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We are talking to my good friend Kurt Mullet from Hoosier Blue 63, and it's always great to have Kurt on with us. Check out his platform. Check out what he's doing on social media. Check out what he's doing when it comes to this next topic, and that is helping to the word train is kind of a heavy word, but helping to enlighten and bring attention and skill sets to people in the state of Indiana when it comes to navigating this political, landscape that we're on. Talk a little bit about that and what you've been doing with some folks there of late.
Like I said earlier, my experience or my connections that have been awarded to me with some of the younger progressives in our state has grown into something that we knew we needed to do. Something we needed to make an impact, and we've been talking about it for a while. And about 6 months ago, there was a half-heartedly attempt at it, but Courtney Enochs and myself, and Courtney is Victoria Martz's campaign manager, and with Victoria, we got together and we have created a group called Hoosiers Progressives Academy, and we have a Facebook page. We're on Discord and Instagram, but our main focus is on Facebook. And what we are trying to do is we are trying to recruit, educate, excite young progressives, but of any age in our state to get involved in the party. We are setting up programs to where we are going to help people learn how to become a precinct chair, which people don't understand how important a precinct chair is alone. They make a lot of the decisions within the party. Precinct chairs are the ones who elect the county chair. So, yeah. But in our state, our Secretary of State, Blythe Potter, who we support, this came about because of a candidate that threw his hat in the ring, who's a nepotism candidate, and we dug into this thing, and he's receiving donations. He's calling himself a grassroots candidate, but he's receiving donations from Republican billionaires. He has not lived in Indiana. He actually launched his campaign in an empty rented apartment in downtown Indianapolis that his father signed the lease on, and all those things. Hey, whatever. But what we have a problem with is that he's calling himself a grassroots candidate, and he is not a grassroots candidate.
There's nothing
and
wrong.
this is where this all came from.
There's nothing wrong with no. There's nothing wrong with family, helping out family and doing. Right. We don't want to be hypocritical in that, but don't call yourself the person of the people. You would be better credibility wise to say, look, my daddy helped me with this. My pops rolled out the dough to help me get this. But I'm down with you guys. I'm going to use that privilege, that leverage, that access to make things better. Don't pretend like you bootstrapped it up when your pops, because we don't have a problem with your pop helping you. But be honest about it. Be straight up and say, listen, this is how I got here, but I'm down with you guys. That has a lot more credibility than, hey, man, I'm with you guys and I've been rolling with you. No, it's a bunch of garbage. Sorry, man. I just had to add that to the conversation.
No, it's true, and you and I may look at it in a objective way like that, but a lot of people didn't. They immediately went to so we can't control what people think. We can just do like you did.
We can tell you what we think about what people think.
Exactly, yeah. So, but we created this group, Hoosier Progressives Academy, to just to help people get involved in the process. And it's amazing. We haven't even been online for 2 days, and we're approaching 300 members, followers, and we have a group page, and we have a base page and a group page, and our group page is where we're going to do all the training. We're going to start live programs where we're talking about how we are taking people through the process on how to fill out the paperwork, where to get the paperwork, and what they have to do in order to become a delegate for the state of Indiana, because in Indiana, our Democratic nomination for Secretary of State will be chosen by delegates.
Right.
So
but a lot of people don't know that, and not just in the state of Indiana, your own residents, but a lot of people. This is the broader light, and we'll have to maybe. Well, let me just cut to the point because I know we're getting close on time. This is where we are with a lot of our political structure in the country, and you've said this a number of times. A lot of people just don't know how stuff works. And not just in Indiana, but across the country. And some of that's civics based. There's a lot of reasons why we're here. But the kudos is to recognizing that it's a need, which you've done marvelously. And now you're putting some stakes into it to help it grow.
Absolutely, we're going to make a difference. You have to ask yourself why has our party. Why has it taken us to the point to where they don't want people to know how to get involved?
Yeah.
That's a question that I ask.
Because when people are involved, Kurt, last Tuesday happens. That's why.
Yes, exactly.
Simple answer,
but that's
brother.
what they're scared of.
It's like the representative from the assemblyman from Virginia said on Wednesday, I believe it was, last Wednesday, with Westmore standing in the background. He said, listen, y'all, and he was speaking mostly to the African-American community, but larger community of us who want to get more people involved in the process. He said, listen, if our vote and our participation didn't matter, they wouldn't be working so damn hard to try to stop us from getting it, having it, keeping it, and informing people about what they can do by getting involved with an organization like that which you put together. I'm proud of you, brother, once again.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. One last time, how can folks find the organization? What should they do if they want to get involved, whether they be directly involved or indirectly involved?
So it's called Hoosier Progressives Academy. Our main platform is on Facebook. Just simply Google it, and you'll find the page. We also have a group that you can join. We are also on Instagram and Discord, and we are going to be expanding. We're going to start doing some podcasts, and some live trainings. But Hoosier Progressives Academy. You don't have to be interested in becoming a representative or getting involved in politics. Simply coming to our page, liking our page, and following our page helps us with our growth, and we'll get more people involved. So a simple like is all that we're asking for you. But if you have comments and you want to contribute to it, hey, we're open for that, because the more voices that we have coming together speaking for one common goal, the better off we're going to be. And we want representation. We do not want politicians. And I know that's taken the wrong way by a lot of people, but we want representatives. That's who we want.
They're elected to an office. They're an elected political official. We want representation from those which we elect. So, Kurt Mullet, y'all, Hoosier Blue 63. Just a little bit of everything. He's got a pot of goulash, a good old pot of gumbo brewing with all that he's doing to help people who want to be part of the process. Thank you, man, for being with us this morning, as always. I love our slot. I love our time together, because we're trying to.
I do too, man.
We're trying to build and grow this thing and strengthen our country. So thank you for the work that you're putting in.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate the platform that you have given me and the friendship that we have made. And you only have one life, Richard.
That's right. This is what's the title of the James Bond movie? You only live twice. Well,
we'll see.
Made you laugh.
Yeah, you always do.
All right, man. Have a great,
especially your text.
I know. All right, man. Be well, stay safe, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, take care. Thank you.
Let's hit this quick break, guys. 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, WARR for Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
This is Tony Moret. I'm an estate planning attorney who drafts living trusts and wills for my clients. You have probably heard my ads here on WCPT for the last few years. Your fellow listeners, when we have completed their plans, say, I wish I had done this sooner. It wasn't nearly as hard as I thought it would be. We can complete your estate plan within 30 days or less. There are certainly decisions that need to be made, but my 30-plus years of experience will help guide you through this process. There may never be a perfect time to start, but whenever I'm asked when is the best time, my answer is always the same. Now is the best time, while it is on your mind. Being able to tell your family that you have an estate plan in place, that all the details have been taken care of, will be a great relief to both yourself and those you care for the most. Our initial consultation is without charge, and there is no obligation. My phone number is 847-996-0496, and my website is moreelawoffice.com, spelled M-O-R-E-E. I look forward to speaking with you.
Hey, honey, what are you doing?
Studying for a math test.
You want some acupuncture?
Acupuncture can help with tests?
Yeah, that was the subject of my published doctoral work. My research showed that one acupuncture treatment before a test improves memory by 9.5%.
That's almost a whole letter grade higher.
And it reduced procedural errors by 36%. That's all from one treatment. Additional treatments help more.
Wow, I want some of that.
I have patients who will come in before final exams, SATs, MCATs, and other tests. And we've seen this technique help older folks with things like dementia and Alzheimer's.
Can I get acupuncture too? I have a vocabulary test coming up.
Acupuncture can help remedy problems, but it can also help a healthy person perform even better. Come see us at Chicago Community Acupuncture at Milwaukee, Devon, and Nagel. Call us at 773-853-0920, 773-853-0920, or what's the website, girls?
Chicamaku.com.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Skies will become mostly sunny here for today with a high in the low 50s. West winds at 10 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 30. Then for tonight, partly cloudy with a low near 34. By Thursday, sunshine high around 53 degrees. And Friday, plenty of blue skies and sun, a high around 60. Saturday, partial sunshine develops high around 68 degrees. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 38.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
You're listening to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. Wasn't it great to have Kurt on? I mean, he's doing so much great stuff, and I'm always proud to have him on the show. And let me just highlight what that's all about. You guys know late spring, I found Kurt on social media. I was like, this guy's posting some great stuff. Wait a minute, this dude's in Indiana. It's a white dude in Indiana posting this stuff, and I'm like, okay, we all have bias is not the word I want to use in a negative way, but we all have our predispositions. I'm like, I need to reach out to this cat, and I did, and he responded. And the next thing you know, we're talking. I'm like, hey man, I'd love to have you, be a part of the show. And he's like, really? Yeah, because you're saying the things that people need to hear. Blah blah blah. Fast forward a year and a half later, and look what's happening. So, use social media as a way to enhance and grow what you're doing. And as much as it is that, you may stroll through things. And scroll through things, I meant to say. But just recognize that social media can be extremely powerful and a tool that you can benefit from when you use it that way. And so, here we are, as Kurt being a great part of the show. Another dude that I have affectionately referred to as Doc, is with us, and I'm always grateful that we have had people with such leadership and experience be part of the show and can share their message and the things that they're working on with our listeners and folks all over the country. Because I think right now there's a big gap in terms of learning and understanding and information and data that is missing in our country. And when we have folks like Professor Andrew Sillickson on our show, it always makes for a great conversation because that's what they're all about. He is the president of Public Agenda, has been with us a couple times before, and has been kind enough to let me refer to him as Doc. He knows that is nothing other than a total respect for the work that he does and his prowess in this field. Good morning, Professor. Welcome to Choose Views on WCPT here in Chicago. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. It's good to be with you, Richard. And yes, I think our democracy can use a lot of doctors. So I'm happy if I can contribute a little bit to our public health.
Absolutely. And the public health, is not only just our sort of our physical being and our physiological being, but our mental state right now. There's a lot of people that are struggling mentally because of how much is being, thrust upon them to have to navigate and deal with. And I don't care, what people say right now. The country feels more stressful than it's felt in a long time. So it's good to have someone like you that brings your leadership and education and civic engagement to the table to keep people feeling like they're part of something. Because I see this and hear this a lot, Doc, that people feel like they're disconnected. And that's the last thing I want for folks to have. And when we were talking with earlier with Yolanda Androza, who's the executive director of One Aim Illinois, she talked about the fact that there's the disconnection that people feel as a survivor of gun violence. And so I know that in your world, that's one of the things that you try to really stay on top of, which is civic engagement.
I think it's absolutely true, Richard, and the point you're making, there's no doubt there's a connection between our individual well-being and public well-being, and it goes in both directions. It's hard to remain happy and focused on the things that you want to in your own community, in your own life, if you're feeling like things are out of control in the country. And at the same time, it's also just tough to get involved if you're not feeling well personally. It's tough to get out. Separate from some of the things we came to talk about, we've done some research about people who can't find doctors they need to deal with mental illness diagnoses. And it's very, very limiting in people's lives. It prevents them from engaging at work. It prevents them from engaging their communities. And it's a real barrier. And it's a big problem for many Americans right now. And it's likely to get worse as healthcare costs and coverage gets worse. So, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. These questions, I think some people are like, hey, I just want to ignore politics. And I can understand that. But it's also true that if we don't get our public life in better order, it's really hard for people to thrive individually and at the level of their own families.
What do you think, Professor, are just some tools? If you were to say, okay, I'm going to do a quick, Cliff Notes version, if you will, of what that could look like. What would you, and not to put you on the spot with that, but what would you say is or are some of those things and how that could be more prevalent in society today?
I think one of the most powerful things people can do is look around locally for opportunities to get engaged. I think we often are, the further things away from us things are, I don't know if that sentence made sense, but when things are far away from us, they seem totally out of our control. And to some extent that's true, not fully, but we cannot individually make things in Washington work better, not on our own. But we can make things a little bit better in our own communities, and that's something we can believe. And if you start to do that, you find that there are other people out there who are doing that too, and who are committed. And they may not be people you agree with about every single thing, but you might agree that it would be good to have, a good little league in your town that works for kids and parks that people can enjoy. And, I think one of the things we see is that people who do get engaged locally tend to be more optimistic about the future. They tend to think it's possible. They feel what political scientists call efficacy, which is just a fancy word for, does it matter what I do? Can I make a difference in the world? And the more people have that experience, the more it's possible for them to envision, oh, maybe this can actually happen at a bigger scale if I continue to get involved, find those connections. And, I think one thing that's really changed in our world is the opportunities to get involved in organizations where at the local level, people are making decisions and working with each other. They've just contracted. We just have fewer organizations like that. And as you were saying, social media can be a very powerful way to connect with people, but it's not the same as sitting around a table with neighbors, whether it's at a church, whether it's at a local organization, and saying, okay, hey, what resources can we put together from our own, resources? How can we use those to benefit our community? And I do think that idea of saying we need to be involved with people in ways where we're making decisions together, we're choosing what we value, we're making things happen, we're trusting each other to play different roles, and we're learning that we can trust each other. Those opportunities, they can only grow again if we grow them. And I think that's one thing that people can do that's tangible, and it's not too heavy a lift.
The local impact or the importance of local involvement and the impact that it will have is monumental. I mean, I think about, again, going back to talking with Yolanda Androza earlier. I mean, it's a local organization. It's an Illinois-based organization, but it has tentacles in different areas of the country because gun violence is an issue that, unfortunately, no state in America is immune to it. But this is a local organization here in Chicago that's had outreach, and now they're doing so many other bigger, broader things. And they got down, like you said, they sat at the table and said, how do we make this right for the survivors? And in that conversation, prevention has become a big part of their conversation because of what you speak to so well, and that's the importance of civic engagement. So thank you for dressing that up a little bit for us and helping us have a little bit better understanding. During the intro, Doc, I said some words around reports and data and things that you guys do such a great job of designing, creating, and putting out to the general public. And most recently, you put together, one that talks about trust in America, trust in society at large. And I'm just dying to hear what you can share with us this morning in terms of your latest production, if you will, that I know our listeners will appreciate hearing about.
Yeah, I'm very glad to share it, and it really does go to some of the issues that we were just talking about. It's interesting because this research comes out of a larger project that is partly looking at Republicans, people who identify as Republicans, people who supported Donald Trump, and we'll have a lot more to share. We're still working through that data and getting it ready to share publicly, and I'll be happy to come on back to talk about that.
Well, yeah, absolutely. That's a given. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. No. But in the research, we've been doing focus groups and surveys, and we ask people about a lot of things. And this is not just Republicans. This is all Americans. And one thing we have asked about, for just the reasons we were talking about, is, how much do you trust other people, and how much are you willing to engage with people you disagree with? And we found some interesting things that had to do with differences between generations in the United States. So, one thing we found is we asked people basically, how much do you trust that other people are trying to do the right thing versus how much do you think that they're just trying to get ahead, put their own personal interests first? And we found that, a kind of a slim majority of Americans have a slightly positive view here that people are trying to do the right thing. But what we found is that varies hugely by generation. So if you look at baby boomers, they overwhelmingly, almost 70% of them, think that most people are trying to do the right thing. Whereas if you look at Gen Z and millennials, they, less than half, about 46%, think that most people are trying to do the right thing. And in contrast, most of those younger people think that most folks, most of the time, trying to put their own interests out in front. And there's a number of things that are interesting about that. But one thing that stood out to us is you might think that as a result, younger people would be less willing to engage with people they disagree with. If they think everybody's kind of out for themselves, then what's the point of talking to folks who I don't agree with, I don't trust their intentions, whatever. And what was interesting to us was we found the opposite. So when you ask people about whether they think they can learn something by talking to people whose political views are different from their own, it was young people who were much more likely to say yes, almost 3/4 of young people. So they don't trust other people necessarily, but they're willing to listen to them. And so that's kind of a twist that I think in some ways opens up some opportunities. It's troubling in some respects. And I think, when we ask questions about why are younger people so open to kind of fringe ideas, conspiracy theories, the things we're seeing, kind of people talk about the manosphere on YouTube and the way young men are kind of going, down these rabbit holes. Some of it is, I think, that they don't prejudge a lot. They're willing to say, you know what, I'm willing to give anybody a hearing, as opposed to older people who are less likely to engage with people they don't already agree with. But it's not necessarily that young people think, oh, that's because everybody's got good intentions and whatever. They're just kind of like, hey, we're all out for ourselves. And so why shouldn't I listen to other people? So it's kind of a strange thing because, again, political scientists usually think trusting other people and being willing to engage, those go right hand in glove. Maybe it's not so simple, and maybe some of these things change as generations change.
You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, and WARR from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu, and I'm talking with President of Public Agenda, Professor Andrew Sillickson. Doc, I got to ask you this question. You said it toward the tail end of that moment, and I was going to ask it in relationship to, generational shifting. So if we were to go back in time, let's say you and I went back 60 or 70 years, and if we could overlay this research being done then, what do you think? And I know you have to kind of speculate a little bit. What do you think that 70 years ago, this thought process would have looked like as it relates to that trustworthiness and that willingness to be open to giving somebody, their quote unquote, their day in court to talk about what they believe in? Do you have any data on that, or do you have any speculative thoughts around it?
Yeah, I think we do. I'm doing the math. I think we're taking us back to 1955. Not a time I can remember. I have to admit that part. But I do think when we look at most of these data about trust in institutions, trust in others, they have gone down very significantly during that period. And, so that part of it, I think we do know that. I'm not sure I know the answer, I'll be honest, about the questions about kind of openness to engaging with others, et cetera. But I think my guess would be that's also just gone down over that period. And I think, one of the things I think about when I reflect about what's true about these younger generations, like what have they seen in their lives? And, if you think about millennials, maybe you kind of woke up to the existence of politics or whatever at a moment when we were involved in these apparently endless wars that you probably didn't remember the beginning of. And no one could really give you an explanation of what we were doing, but they were just background reality. Then you saw the financial crisis. Maybe your family lost its home, or, you knew people who were displaced and suffering. And I think, there was a very widespread feeling among Republicans and Democrats. You can think of Occupy Wall Street and the Tea Party. Everybody had the feeling that was not resolved in a way that was fair. The people who were responsible for the collapse never really paid a price, and so many ordinary Americans did. And many, many people we talk about as Gen Z or millennial, they grew up in families that were really affected by that and by that sense of failure of the system for them. Then they've experienced national politics in the last 10 years. They've seen the level of conflict and vitriol, demonization of members of our community. They've experienced very old people apparently putting their own interests and ambitions ahead of the country. I think that's a thing that many people have experienced. And they've watched as problems haven't been solved, but people who didn't seem up to the task at that point in their lives were holding on to power very tightly. And they lived through COVID, which could have been a unifying moment, but degenerated into conflict and a failure to really put the national interest ahead of personal and political ambitions. So when you ask them, do you think people are basically good and looking out for the public, or are mostly looking out for themselves? I'd be shocked if they had a rosy view of that, as opposed to people who experienced the country's rebound from the Great Depression, who experienced World War II, who, saw progress on civil rights, who, there's just very different kinds of experiences, in addition to the fact, of course, that in 1955, we had a booming economy that was, the beginning of a long growth period that would benefit so many Americans and raise people out of poverty, in contrast to the period we're in now, where the economic prospects that most younger people face really don't look better than those their parents faced. And nobody seems to be taking steps at the policy level to really address those interests. They can't afford housing. They're saddled with education debt. So I think it's pretty understandable why they're skeptical of intentions. But it's interesting to me that in that environment, part of their response is to say, hey, nothing that anybody in power is doing is really working. So I'm open to whatever you got. Bring your ideas. And again, that can be kind of dangerous and fringy, but also it's an openness that maybe won't be terrible for us.
Well, I wrote down a couple of words. I wrote down some symbols. I wrote down dollar signs, and I drew a line between dollar signs and dollar signs. So that was my way of saying income disparity and wealth disparity. And I think that when I had to do that so I could pay attention to class. But, Doc, that to me is one of the big ones. And I think if I go back to, when I was born and looking at what took place in all through the 60s and all the things that you just mentioned in terms of those progressive things for society. And then we hit some walls that slowed that, if not derailed it in many ways. But the one common thread is money. And that in every conversation that we're talking about here, and we need so much more time, so we will have to make sure to have you back on again in December before the holiday, the end of the season, end of the year. But Doc, the income disparity is the thing that touches every single category that we're talking about. And when you said people of a certain age holding on to power at all costs, that's happening in business too. There's a lot of CEOs that need to leave, not just politicians that maybe should be going. So I'm just want to get your thoughts on that as we kind of come to the end of our segment today.
I think you're absolutely right. There's so many issues that are both economic and generational in nature. So, as you said, people talk now about the gerontocracy, right? Older people holding on to power. And absolutely, it's happening. I've seen data about it across fields. People are not retiring. They're not. And of course, it's great that people are healthier longer and can continue to contribute. And none of this is about seeking to marginalize people as they get older. But at the same time, how do we open up space for younger people to step in as well and realize some of the opportunities that previous generations, mine included, have experienced that now feel very closed? I think it's absolutely right that, when I think about a young person today, again, in terms of what the economy looks like, so many of the options for them are sort of in the gig economy. They're not jobs that provide benefits. Nobody has a pension that's secure anymore, right? And, we think of, well, everybody's got a 403B, 401K, whatever. No, that's not true for a vast number of Americans. It's true for the professional class who often think about these issues. But, the great number of Americans don't have any retirement security at all. And so, younger people coming in, again, right, as you're saying, there's a kind of raw deal being offered to them. And they recognize that. And it leads them to think very differently about whether things in America that maybe some older people think of as worth preserving are really worth preserving because they're not working for them.
They're not working for them.
And it, again, I think one of the things that stood out to me in our research, we asked people, and we had asked the same question in 2019, whether the disagreements that people are having, the challenges in communicating, whether it was mostly that we're not good at dealing with disagreement, or was it mostly that we just have fundamentally different beliefs that we can't navigate? And in 2019, most people, the biggest group said, hey, this is really just about we're not good at communicating about our disagreements. Now in 2025, the biggest group by far, 57%, said we can't communicate about them, but also we just have too deep a divide, too fundamental a divide. And I think younger people, again, are also seeing that like they're being closed out of opportunity, and the people holding power are not capable of coming to solutions for them. And that, again, I think is part of the loss of trust, but is also then opens up that willingness to say, what else is out there?
What else is out there? Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Dr. Andrew Seligson, PhD, President, Public Agenda. Always great to have you with us. Always a great. And behind the scenes, you guys, the doc and I have some fun with our emails back and forth about things. So it's great to have you on. Look at your calendar, because I definitely want to have you back on in December so we can talk a little bit more about the latest results and focus work that you're doing to just keep our listeners all over the country aware of some of the data that's driving a lot of the conversations where we are today in the country. So thank you for being with us. Wrap us up with how folks can find you on Public Agenda.
We are at publicagenda.org, and you can find us on social media at Public Agenda. We'll be happy to talk about this research on Republicans. We're also doing another project that's about listening to young men and seeking to understand their perspective. So that'll be coming out early next year. So yeah, lots more to talk about. And Richard, thank you so much for having me. Always a pleasure to be on with you.
Absolutely. Thanks for being with us. Have a great rest of the week. Stay safe, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Sounds good. You too.
All right. Bye-bye. Guys, thanks to all of our guests, Dr. Seligson for just being with us. Obviously, Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blue 63, Yolanda Androza, and Congresswoman Robin Kelly for giving us a holler as she's on her way to the airport to get to D.C. to get this vote in. Thanks for being with us, you guys as well who've listened, who've sent me text messages, and all the rest. We appreciate you more than you can imagine. Take a deep breath, guys, and make your life count. We'll see you tomorrow.
When it comes to the vitamins and supplements you take, quality counts. If you have questions or concerns about the vitamins you plan on taking, we're happy to help. Mark Drugs, better health and care for you and your pets. The most common signs you need a probiotic are if you have taken an antibiotic and need to balance out the gut bacteria, you find yourself getting constantly sick, or you feel bloated, unwell, or have skin issues. We carry high-quality probiotics at our pharmacy, such as Florastor, Floragen, and what I refer to as the silver bullet, Orthobiotic, which combines multiple strains of beneficial bacteria and friendly yeast to stimulate optimal gut flora. Get to know your pharmacist. Caring for you, your family, and your overall well-being is what